people have a really hard time with the law. They have a really hard time, especially with family law. I remember when I started law school, the teachers would often talk about something called the plain English movement, whatever that was. It meant that rather than glamorizing everything with mumbo jumbo nomenclature, arcane legal terms since time immemorial, maybe the better approach is to speak like a normal person in regular English, to speak like a quote reasonable person, which I call normal person. So, to that effect, I challenge you. Are you a Google lawyer? Are you listening to your own lawyer? Do you interpret legal things, processes, procedures, outcomes, principles, laws? Do you determine those things based upon your own individual experiences and you think a normal person would believe they mean? Or do you interpret them based on legal precedent? Here are a few examples that I hope will really help you bring this home and understand it better. Example number one. Recently, a client said, I want shared parental responsibility. And they thought that meant equal time. Bogus. Wrong. Survey says, no, I'm sorry. That is, in fact, a failure to understand the legal terms. Even if in plain English, that might seem directly related. Two different standards, two different legal precedents. For instance, number one, if you want equal timeshare, you're asking the court to award you off 225 schedule or 223, depending on how you rotate it, that sort of thing. But that's not parental responsibility. Parental responsibility is making decisions on behalf of your minor children. Because they are unable to make those decisions on their own, you are their protector, their guardian of sorts, even though that's a whole other legal term with a whole other legal meaning. You are their legal custodian. Again, a whole other legal term with a whole other legal meaning in family law. What we're really talking about here is, can they go get a tattoo? Are they going to have a certain kind of surgery that might be elective if they're under 18? As a parent and or slash co-parent, perhaps you will make that decision on their behalf. What about where they go to school? What about academic decisions? Should they have tutoring to the extent that they will not just simply sit there and stare off the space, dirty looks? Hey, teenagers be teenagers. That is a fact of life. Let's take another example. The most commonly misunderstood legal principle is a substantial change in circumstances. From a plain English, normal person point of view, yeah, my job changed. Now I have all the time in the world to be with my child, so I want to change my parenting plan. Not so fast. Parenting plans are changed based on a substantial and material change in circumstances. It's in the child's best interest, and it's not just a substantial change that you change your child. The court does not really define that as a substantial change in circumstances. It might be personally, but it's not necessarily in court terms. Courts rely not just on Florida statutory law, they also rely on legal precedent, i.e. case law. And there are thousands upon thousands of case law precedents stacked on top of each other used to build new case law, new offshoots, and eventually, and sometimes different districts, different areas of Florida, depending on their politics, their values, their constituencies, they develop different impressions of the law. Because judges and reasonable minds may differ as to what in the world something means, and they rule a different way. And then the Florida Supreme Court, there's what we call a circuit split. Maybe the Orlando court rules differently from the Miami court, rules differently from the Jacksonville court. Okay, Dade, okay, Duval, okay, Orange, let's take this up to the big boys, or big ladies, big people, however that politically correct phrase may go. I honestly couldn't tell you, but I am mindful of it. So, that is called a circuit split. Again, not plain English. Forgive me for that, but I hope you'll understand I'm trying to teach you something. So substantial change in circumstance. I changed my job, or, I just got married and now I have some extra child care. I've made these kinds of changes in my life, this kind of change in my life. And the law evolves. Many years ago, some courts would say that stopping addiction to substances was not a substantial change in circumstances. Your case would be dismissed by a clever lawyer on the other side. Nowadays, some courts say it is a substantial change in circumstances if you've reformed your life if you've gone to NA, if you've undergone radical life changes to improve yourself, become a better parent, and put yourself in a better position to recognize and appreciate your child's best interests. So there's a lot going on. And among those things going on, you have to appreciate that a substantial change to you doesn't mean it's a substantial change to the core. And a lot of folks ask me, I want to change my parenting plan because ABC, 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z. But I have case law that says that is not a substantial change in circumstance. And then I have to explain it to a parent who's desperate to see their kid more, but they already have a parenting plan. And because the plain English meaning of substantial change isn't necessarily the legal meaning of substantial change. There used to be a rule that if you were in the military and you lived more than 50 miles away from a child in a long distance parenting plan situation, and then you moved closer, that didn't represent a substantial change. Even if you went to live next door, you couldn't change that. And now times are different. Times have changed. Relocating to within 50 miles of where your kid lives is in most cases a substantial change of circumstances. You may be able to get your case back in the court and redo your entire parenting plan. So keep in mind, folks, when you play Google Lawyer, when you read a blog designed to sell you something, when you have an AI summary, that may be information extracted from other places, but it's not well reasoned. AI's job isn't necessarily to reason and think through legal situations. It's simply to quickly and effortlessly provide you with legal information scattered throughout the internet and compiled into one nice little summary you might not truly be able to make sense of in a meaningful way. I hope I've taught you a little something today.